Hey there guys, this is Flamzaron, aka YouTube's Tasuke. It's been a little bit. I know I just uploaded that All the Bravest video, but I wanted to make a video kind of giving my thoughts on the current state of the Tales series as it seems, because there's been some stuff going on that I'll have links to in the description. This is kind of like that Berseria video I think I did a while ago. About talking about the demo, I think, where I had like links, and it was almost like a podcast. I'm sort of doing the same thing here, because there's been a lot of stuff that's been come up with the Tales series, and it's because of these things that it's making me think about where we're going, and also just talk about what I've been doing with the Tales series as well. Sorry in advance also for the lack of videos that have been going up. I know it's been a while since I've done a Dark Souls Let's Play, especially given how far I am. But it's just like, to be honest, I haven't really been feeling that motivated to make videos and stuff. I've got a few like mobile game videos that I need to put out, and I've actually got the Fighters review that I need to upload. I'll probably do that, shortly. I don't know when this is going up. Depending on how long this video is, I might have this one upload first. If it ends up being a lot longer, I'll have it uploaded after. So you'll just see what's going on. But yeah, so a lot of stuff has been going on with the Tales series. Obviously we all know about the whole Hideo Baba thing. That's kind of old news at this point, how he's left Namco and is now part of Square Enix and formed a new studio called Studio Istolia, which apparently means story, and I think Italian, which I think is really funny, story tale. And they're apparently working on a new game. I'd be interested to see what that game is all about, and kind of where that heads. But I feel like there's a lot of misinformation about what happened in regards to the Alicia thing. I've heard a lot of different stuff, and I'm not really an expert in the game industry and everything, so I can't really like give like any like insider info or anything. I feel like there's a lot of like, I've heard some people say like he wanted it to be DLC and try to like get money from the fans that way, and they deliberately cut Alicia out early. I don't think that's true. Don't take what you hear with a grain of salt. Just go with the official statements for the time being. Hideo Baba stated that he felt like, or they felt like, that Alicia was important enough to the story for her to be revealed that early. And I was thinking about this the other day. This actually isn't new to the Tales series. The same thing kind of happened with Tales of Vesperia with Flynn, because I remember they kept showing him, and he seemed like he was pretty important, especially in regards to his relationship with Yuri. So I think a lot of us probably either hoped, or in my case I hoped because I thought he was cool, but also assumed that he would be a playable character. And there was even that blog post that said, these are all the playable characters, and it showed them like in a line, and Flynn was on like the end of it, and I'm like, okay, so Flynn's playable. Well, as it turns out, he was playable, but only for one section. And he was only playable there, so they didn't really do a lot with him, which is unfortunate. And obviously, there's, the PS3 version that, he became fully playable, and he was given, like, a bigger move list and all that stuff. But it just kind of shows that, like, this isn't really new. Like, we've dealt with this before, and I'm pretty sure Hideo Baba was the producer for that game as well. He didn't really come into the forefront globally as sort of like the public image of the Tales series until Graces, and I think that's part of the reason why this Alicia thing had such a big impact, because with Vesperia, he was the producer, but like he wasn't like making videos and being all like, I'm gonna answer your questions on Twitter, or I'm gonna troll people, I'm gonna take a picture of me using Tipo plush as a pillow, playing a game, being all like, draw me like one of your Tales girls. That was from that Kotaku article where they had a bunch of like developers and producers and whatnot, big game people, like taking pictures of how they think people play video games. His was probably the most standard and normal. I think most people were probably like laying down with a pillow playing a video game. I know that I play that. I don't always use a pillow. I'm on a love seat, quote unquote, or usually on my bed, but that's neither here or there. But yeah. So honestly, like, and I've talked about this before in the Zestiria Final Thought video. Like, I think she left too early. All that. If you've seen my Zestiria the Cross review, then you'll know how I feel about that. I kind of don't remember, but I do remember feeling like she was sort of shoehorned in, and like it was really clear they were trying to say like, oh, she's the main character. It's like, well, in the game she was pretty important too. I think that's part of the reason why her leaving so early was kind of a issue. And of course she had that scene where like she breaks and is like, I can't do this anymore, and like after fighting her teacher, that purple haired chick, I forget her name, with the spear, Marlowe or something. It's something with an M and something with N. I don't remember, but it was that, and like that would have been a good time for her to leave, or if they even did a Tales of Her Birth thing where it's the vague side and the Claire side. That name's bothering me. I'm gonna look it up while I talk about this. Yeah, this is probably when I said this is a super podcasty video, this is super podcasty. I will look stuff up while I talk to you. I might take a sip of my Fanta, but yeah. So again, like to kind of summarize what the point of this section is. One, just go with the official statements of what Hideo Baba said. I'm still trying to find that article, that interview that he did where the interviewer actually like voiced his opinion, and Hideo Baba stood his ground and like stated back, and it's just like good for him. It's just like I don't think it was to get money from DLC. I don't know. It's not because he liked Rose better, even though frankly I think Rose is a better fit for Saray. It's not because of that. It's because they felt like she was important enough to the story to be revealed at that point. And she was important to the story. Even though she left, she was still very important to the story. So that's sort of where I stand there. Now, that's not the only thing. I mean, that's sort of what everything kind of started here with... That's sort of what started everything. Hideo Baba, he wasn't the producer for Tales of Berseria. It was, I believe, Yasuhiro Fukaya, I believe his name was. And I think he did a good job. I enjoyed Berseria. But obviously, since they got a different producer, that was definitely a bit of a red flag. And I think we knew that before Hideo Baba left. Also, Ghost Shina left as well, which was, that's sort of a interesting thing. I think that's almost kind of like what I've heard about Dragon Ball. Again, there are no facts as far as I know to match this, but the whole Kenji Yamamoto thing with the Dragon Ball Z Kai, how the plagiarism scandal, he left. I've heard that Hironobu Kageyama was a good friend of Kenji Yamamoto, and so because of that, he left as well. And that's what people have been saying. That's why, like, we didn't get, like, Hironobu Kageyama back for Super or whatever. I need to do that review, too, because the Tournament of Power arc's over. But that's, again, a different subject, and that's definitely going to be a longer video. But, yeah, so Hideo Baba, he wasn't the producer of Berseria. He was credited as the general producer of the game in the credits. So they at least gave him that respect. And I think I mentioned this in the Zestiria Lacrosse review, but I'm pretty sure he had a cameo. Because there was a guy who looked just like him in the show when they were all like, let's hire people to help us with this war. And it's like, I can do good cooking. That kind of thing. Maltrin, that was her name. I actually looked it up. I had to take a quick pause, but, doesn't matter. So yeah, that was sort of the start in a way. Things were getting pretty quiet after that. They didn't announce any Tales games for, I think, the last two Tales festivals. Besides, I think, Tales of the Rays. But, of course, there's a thing about that from our standpoint. In mobile games in general, because, for one thing, we did get Tales of Link, but Tales of Link, unfortunately, closed globally. And not only that, but the English version of Tales of the Rays also closed. I'll have links to those articles on Abyssal Chronicles in the description below. Both of those I actually happen to write because, if you didn't know, I write for Abyssal Chronicles now. Yeah, I'm one of their news writers, so I guess that's sort of kind of me, the me section part 1. I'll probably intersplice different sections as we go. But with the closure of Tales of Link globally and Tales of the Rays internationally and by internationally I mean strictly outside of Japan. That's what I mean by internationally. I know globally and internationally are kind of similar words, but I'm thinking in terms of like international from the standpoint of it's a location away from the home state, if that makes any sense. With those closing, that's kind of a big red flag because, those are like Tales of Link. It kind of makes sense because I think that game's been running for a while, and it's just a hero collector. They didn't do much. I know they did a collaboration with Sword Art Online and some other Namco phone game. So that was it didn't do too much, and I think it kind of ran its course. And of course there's other ones like Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. Like there are other hero collector games. So if you're just itching for an anime hero collector game, there are the ones I know. Fate Grand Order has an English version now, and then of course there are ones like that, and I think Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, where they're a hero collector game, but they have an actual game component to it. It's not just like the connect the dots thing that Tales of Link and Dokkan Battle are, from what I understand. I started the Saint Seiya one, Saint Seiya Cosmo Fantasy, and I'm gonna probably do a video on that. But so far, it kind of seems like it is more like a hero collector with an actual game component, if that makes any sense. But not only that, but also Absolute Zero Translations, the people who are doing the fan translations, they have decided to stop all of their translation projects. And this is after, Fantasian Productions also decided he was going to stop his. So that whole thing is kind of, done. For those who didn't know, both he and the Absolute Zero people were working on the Destiny remake. They may have been helping with Destiny 2, and of course, both of them have two different versions of Fantasia. So kind of depending on your preferences and whatnot. But so there aren't any more fan translations being worked on, or at least big ones. You can probably find people on Facebook. Like I know there's this one guy in a Facebook group that I'm in for the Tales series who's trying to translate as many as he can, if not all of them. And this doesn't seem to affect the Tales of Rebirth fan translation that's been going on, which was sort of, they kind of shared space with Absolute Zero, but like they were separate. And so because of that, I was kind of more interested because I wanted it to kind of stand on its own and not like have any sort of like bias from that group. I am going a little unfiltered here. If you really want us to be unfiltered, you should listen to the podcast episode where we talked about it. It's on the website. You'll know where to find it. I'm not going to go out of my way to link it because I'm not trying to flame anybody, but I do kind of let my if you've seen it on Facebook, you'll know how I feel about the whole heart situation. I kind of let things go out a little there. I don't speak my entire mind. I kind of give like a really short condensed version, but it is there. So if you really want to know what I think about the whole heart situation early before I do the video, which I need to work on that as well, then you'll know where to find it. But yeah, it seems like a lot of the big stuff, with the exception of the Rebirth thing, and I am sort of noting a certain individual in regards to a Facebook group. I know he's trying to like translate all the Tales games. I think right now he's doing screenshots. So there is hope. But it's going to take a while. Like, the major one is kind of dying off. I won't go into why Absolute Zero decided to stop. I think if you read it, you can probably figure it out. And regardless of where you stand, there is some truth to their words. The Tales series is big enough to warrant some of the stuff they were saying, in my opinion. I know a lot of people have been wanting Tales of Destiny and Tales of Eternity on PSN, which is something they should do because those two are like cult classics. It's kind of like Star Ocean 2 for the PS1. That was a cult classic. I don't think it ever got a greatest hits version, but they got a redub and like a re-release, retranslation on the PSP, Second Evolution. That's the one I actually played. And of course, the classic working design translated RPG Alundra, that's on PSN. And as far as I can tell, that might have had a greatest hits. I actually have a copy, which I'm going to get into as we go further along in things. But basically, I've been collecting, but I'll go into more about that later on. So and like, I feel like it may be in Namco's best interest to try and sort of catch us up with sort of like that exclusive American content. It's not like they haven't done this before with Dragon Ball. Again, different kind of things, but I feel like, if the Tales series is able to get a collector's edition, which you're not going to do that for a niche game. I'm sorry. You're not going to do that. Like, you could argue different things, but I feel like if a series is like small enough, you're not going to spend the extra money to produce all that extra stuff. You'll make more profit probably, but with the Tales series, I think I still stand by my opinion that it is like bigger than most people think it is, and it's continued to grow. On that same Facebook group, I keep seeing people say like, "Hey, I just got into the Tales series." Or like, "Oh, I'm playing this game for the first time." It's just like people are trying these games for like the first time and getting into them. It's like it just shows how the series is growing, and I guess now's kind of a good time for them too, because they're there's a bit of a dry spell at the moment. But yeah, I think Namco maybe should be taking advantage. Like I said, they've done this with Dragon Ball before with like the Budokai HD collection, even though it didn't include 2, it only had 1 and 3. That wasn't in Japan. That's exclusive to North America and Europe, as far as I know. So I feel like, they should maybe, do some of this stuff. And that mobile version of Fantasia, as far as I know, the translation was fairly accurate to the original Japanese, so just take that translation, plop it into the full voice edition, which is what that was, and then put it on Steam or something. Like, that'd be pretty simple, I think. I think they should maybe be trying to take advantage of some of this stuff, especially if they put it on Switch, because a lot of people have been eating up the Switch, which brings me to the fact that there's supposedly a Tales game coming to Switch. But we keep not hearing anything about it. Like, the release date keeps coming around. Like, I think it was supposed to be March 2018, and we didn't hear anything about it. And they say like, "Oh, it's coming in spring," or "Oh no, it's summer." And like, we don't know what's coming. E3 is coming around, so who knows? They might announce something there. And then of course after that's Tokyo Game Show, which how global all these events are, and how live streaming is a thing. I feel like it wouldn't be weird for them to talk about a Japanese game coming in English at Tokyo Game Show, even though that's like basically the Japanese E3 or the Japanese Gamescom or GDC or what have you. Like, there's so many freaking conventions out there, and that's what I really love conventions from a news standpoint, because you can get a lot. That's when developers and publishers and all of them, they like to announce all their cool stuff, like the Sega Fest, which I will be talking about that. I'll be recording that later on. But I think Namco, while they probably won't, they could and should. And it's like if we were back in like the Symphonia days and we were maybe going through something like this or whatnot, or maybe even during the Abyss days or what have you, I'd be like, okay, yeah, the chances of it are even lower, and they probably shouldn't, because it could be a potential waste of money. But more recently with Hearts, I kept seeing a lot of people buying Vitas and that game and other games that they were kind of sitting on for the Vita, or buying the Vita TV because you could play it on the Vita TV. I imagine it looked like crap, or that's what I've heard. But then also, Graces. People were clamoring for Graces when, frankly, and this is just my opinion, but I'm wondering if they were just going to skip Graces and go straight to Exilia, because we ended up, I think by the time we got Graces, or by the time it was announced that we got Graces, Exilia was already out. I think it had only been out for like a few months or maybe even half a year or something, but we were kind of in a trend where sort of like the quote-unquote Team Symphonia games were coming out. And of course, obviously, since one, like, at this point the two teams have merged, I've heard different stories on like whether or not there were actually two different teams. But now the two, basically, like, the two different, like, styles have kind of converged a little bit. And not only that, but now Namco Tales Studio is merged into Namco. So the Tales series isn't technically outsourced anymore. And I guess that could also mean that they could use those teams to make other games as well. which that would be kind of interesting to see. Like, oh, let's just make something that's not Tales, but it's made by the Tales people, and let's see what happens. Almost like a Tales spin-off, if you will, or Tales' spiritual successor, like, you know, the Dark Souls of the Tales series. And I mean Dark Souls as in a spiritual successor to Demon Souls. If you ask me, the Dark Souls of the Tales series is Tales of Zestiria, because that game was fucking hard. No. I'd have to think about what the Dark Souls... It's probably either or Destiny 2 was brutal. Destiny 2 was brutal the first time I played it. In fact, I think I accidentally played it on the second difficulty, because every time afterwards, it felt a lot easier. I'm like, this is interesting. But yeah, Zestiria, that game was brutal. I eventually had to put the game on easy during the Alicia DLC. But, yeah, so I think, you know, one, Namco should maybe try to take advantage of this dry spell by giving us some stuff. Because they've done that before, again, like with, you know, Heartsar, that was a bit of a gamble. Graces, I feel like, was kind of a gamble because they were kind of giving into fandom. Like, people want these Tales games because they love them so much because the gameplay is good, the story's good, the music's good, the graphics good. It's all really fucking good. Even though I have my opinions on what Tales games are better than others, I still love the series enough to say I love all of them in different levels. So, and also that Switch Tales game, I'd love to hear more about that. I'm guessing it could be, since they're taking so long with it, it could be a new game. I kind of am halfway expecting some sort of port, like maybe a Tales game we haven't gotten yet. Like if it's like Fantasia, full voice edition on Switch, that'd be cool. I'd get it. Wouldn't really play it that much because I now have all the versions of Fantasia, which I'll get into later on. But, you know, I'd be down. Or maybe I would prefer, I think, a Tales game we don't already have, because I know a lot of people don't like the Game Boy Advance version, but, like, it is what it is, people. It is what it is. I think, like, maybe... like Destiny 2 or Rebirth, like in terms of playing the Tales games in English, I'd want to get like I'd love to have them all in English. I mean, as a collector, it doesn't affect me that much because I'm going to play them anyway. And there are translated scripts out there, and in Rebirth's case, subbed videos of a game, of like basically a playthrough. So you can get the story that way, and if you know Japanese, you can just play them in Japanese and be all like, I understand this, sweet. I know with Rebirth, part of the translation hassle and like hacking hassle is the password thing that they had, where you have to like type in a password, and you have to, I think it has to be furigana. You could probably get away with katakana if you knew what the word was. The strategy guide I was using didn't really specify what the actual word was. That'd be interesting to try that. If I might maybe try to find a save file and like kind of figure out what the actual words you have to put in is, and be like, can I put it in with katakana? You know, that'd be interesting. But so yeah, we don't really know what the Switch game is yet. The active stuff in the Tales community seems to be dying left and right. You know, I don't even know what's gonna be coming next. I don't think there's anything left to take away, like, unless they want to be all like, the leaderboard for Tales of Vesperia shutting down. Which that, you know, like, because that game had leaderboards, which, you know, leaderboards are cool, I guess. But now the new Tales Festival is coming up this summer, and I think they might announce something there. Again, I don't have any insider. I do write for Abyssal Chronicles, but I'm not that high up on the Tales pedigree. Like, yeah, there's the podcast, and of course my collection, and you know how long I've been in this community, and the fact that I write for Abyssal Chronicles. But I'm not like Hideo Baba level. So, you know, again, like, take my opinions as what they are, opinions. But I try to be as informed as I can, so I try not to, like, you know, say stuff that's like just flat out wrong, but these are just my opinions. And if you disagree with me, feel free to say so in the comments. Though will note that if you are a jerk about it, I'm just going to ignore it, because I'm not going to waste my time humoring you. But I think they might, mainly just because certain stuff seems to be kind of going on there. I know they haven't announced anything for, I think, like the past 2 or 3 Tales festivals. and it's mainly just been like what in theory it probably should be, just a celebration. Of course, there's also a Star Ocean festival that's going to be starting too, so that's kind of a interesting thing. How like Square Enix is only like true competitor to the Tales series. I know most people probably say like, no, the compared to the Tales series is Final Fantasy. Well, yeah, I mean if we're talking like the top 3 RPGs, kind of like talking about the top 3 shonen anime. And even then, like things, I'd say like it's probably Persona. I was thinking about this earlier. Like, I'd say Persona is definitely kind of rising as a new top 3, kind of like how we had, Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece, and now we're getting like all this new stuff. I'd say in that regards, it's more like it's not a big 3 anymore, and it's now the pool of shonen is expanding. Maybe you could maybe say Attack on Titan is sort of like a new big 3, though that's not Shonen Jump, so. I think that's kind of what the big 3 are kind of referring to, specifically the top 3 shonen manga and Shonen Jump. It's not like with video games to where like it's more about the genre rather than the demographic. And from the standpoint of what the actual top 3 are, because if you were to say Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Tales, okay, yeah, well they're all different stuff. The only difference now is that Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy are both Square Enix, whereas Tales, that's Namco. But anywho's as for what that new Tales game might be, if they announce one at Tales Festival, or whatever that Switch one might be if it's not a port, I think honestly it's more than likely going to be important. I think that might be best, just to kind of give them more time to sort of figure out how to handle things, because I think that's kind of what's stopping them. They're trying to figure out how to proceed without their general producer. They may not have a producer who has as much experience with the series as Hideo Baba does. Whether or not they have anyone qualify, that remains to be seen. I think I don't know, like they might have because I think some of the Tales games had more than one producer, but like Hideo Baba was like the main producer, I believe. I'm not sure, but yeah. So I think it could be my first pick, and kind of the one I low key want the most, is like a Tales of Vesperia re-release, probably for PS4 and Steam. Maybe even Xbox One. I doubt it. That would be definitely probably funnier, and maybe even for the Switch. And the reason why I say that is because it's 2018, and it's the 10-year anniversary of Vesperia, and I'm thinking like, they've passed up other anniversaries. I think they passed up the one for Abyss. I don't know why. Abyss seemed to be pretty popular. That was kind of the one where it's just like it's popular among the fans, but in terms of like financial, it's kind of like, depending on where you look and what you look at, it can have sort of like differing you can get like differing results, because if you look at the merchandise that we have, if we got all this merch, like the manga, the anime, and the game on 3DS, that's kind of a thing. That shows like it's pretty popular. But if you just look at like just the game sales, it's like, well, I don't know how many people actually bought the game. And I think Abyss was also kind of Abyss was sort of the start of like we're gonna bring every quote unquote Team Symphonia game over, I think, because obviously the one that came before it was Legendia, and that was sort of a completely different ball game entirely, because that was made by a completely different team. That was made by Namco Home Tech, so basically Namco's in-house team who makes Tekken and Soul Calibur, with a different artist. That was Goshina's debut into the series, so like it had like the most original team out of the entire series. It might even had a different producer. It'd be interesting if they maybe get him to be like the general producer. I don't know. Like, it's really hard to say, but I think that the highest thing might be a Tales of Vesperia Chronicles or something. I don't want to say Tales of Vesperia HD because obviously the game's already in HD, but maybe like an upscale. I know they did that for Star Ocean 4. Yeah, Star Ocean 4. I think it's called The Last Hope. They did that for like PS4 and Steam, so you can do that among other things. But I kind of want it just because I feel like they'd probably give us the PS3 content in English. We all know that they have the PS3 cut Mystic Arts that they put into the PS3 back into the PS3 version. We have those English voices. They could just use those. Any extra thing that they need to record, they could do that. Because since the development team, Vesperia would actually be probably a less expensive one to do on the localization side in theory, because since the English version and the Japanese versions were made closely side by side, and the release windows were very close. A lot of the stuff that was cut from the Xbox version and the Japanese version that was put into the PS3 version likely has an English counterpart. I know Rita has an indignation quote. Yuri has this one misstart they call Brilliant Phoenix, which I assume is like his second one. If we're going by Project Cross Zone, to Yuri and Flynn's twin Mystic Art, that has an English translation, assuming that's the actual English translation, or if they just call it something. I think they call it Twin Wave. I don't know. They'd have to get Patty an English voice, just different. And they could probably get all the voice actors back. Troy Baker has come back for Yuri before, so like if they wanted to get him back and be like, hey, do this fucking thing for us, it's like, I know he's a lot more prolific these days, and he doesn't really do anime anymore. But I'm sure he'd come back for it, I think he'd respect that. I think, or he should. Because I'd love to get that PS3 content in English, because then I wouldn't have to just play the Japanese version. And I don't know if I'm gonna play. I don't think I'm gonna play the fan translation. I know there's a fan translation of the PS3 version available, but it's just like, I don't know. I don't know if I really want to. I'd rather just use an FAQ, because like I would only be playing it for the new stuff, and it's just like, well, I know there's a website to kind of give you all the information you need, but I feel like it would if I were to just play it all through, it probably would help to be in English. And it's just like, I don't know. It'd be nice to have it on the PS4. That'd be cool. And in terms of like modding my systems, I'm not really into it. Like the only reason why I was kind of willing to do it for the Wii with Gecko OS, which I'm gonna need to reinstall probably because of what I have, was because that was the only way. And with Swap Magic on the PS2, that's more of like a tiny thing. Like you just take off the front of the disc tray, like take off that cover, and then there you go. You could even use a knife or a credit card if you really wanted. Like I remember that's like you could use a knife or a credit card if you want to cut it in like the shape, or some sort of like piece of plastic that you could probably 3D print at this point. I have 3 of the little slide cards because the different things I've gotten for the Swap Magic, like the Coder version, which is basically a Game Shark version, then also the PS1 equivalent called Breaker Pro. Both of them came with extra slide cards, but I had to buy one separately when I first got the Swap Magic. So yeah, that's kind of just where I stand. Plus, with fan translations, I generally prefer to have a physical version of it, especially if it's of a console game, because then I can play it on the TV. I know I'm going to do that with Rebirth. I'll just burn my own ISO. I like to burn my own ISOs too, which the ability to do that on PS3 is still kind of new. Like you need to have a certain kind of a Blu-ray drive on your computer to do it, that can read it. Because I had a Blu-ray drive on my old laptop. My new one doesn't have it, but my old one does, and I can't do it on the old one because the old one doesn't have the right Blu-ray drive. It has a Blu-ray drive, so it can watch Blu-ray movies, but it can't rip Blu-ray games. So, yeah, that's just me being a picky fan. Being like, I don't want to play the fan translation that's accurate and stuff and is readily available and stuff. But I think I'd also like to have the English content. Like, I don't know, I'm just being picky. I'm a pretty picky fan, but I think it could also be an HD version of Legendia, because from what I have read, there's going to be some sort of like a Legendia party or something, or some sort of Legendia themed activity or event that's going to be going on. So I'm wondering if they're going to do a remake, like probably an R style remake, so it's not going to be that big, but like a remake with maybe like some stuff that it frankly should have had from the beginning. Because like even though it was a good game, it was pretty different. There wasn't any multiplayer. They took out the Mystic Arts, you know, different things. Before Tempest, it was kind of like the black sheep of the Tales series, but it was also the one that like was also pretty popular. It's one of my favorites too. I really enjoy it. Also, in my opinion, definitely the easiest Tales game because that game was so easy. I only died twice in my playthrough. If I were to play it now, I'd probably die now because I don't know. But I think it could be that, probably for PS4 and Steam and or Switch. You know, it depends. If they wanted to just put the game on Steam, that'd be cool. Maybe add in some extra costumes or something. Or I imagine people would have a field day modding it, be all like, "Hey, here's a costume for Sentinel." That'd be cool. But that's kind of where I stand with the current situation of the Tales series. I don't think it's dying. I am prepared if it's going to die because, you know, I've been hitting the Dragon Ball pretty hard. You know, Dynasty Warriors, that seems to be kind of just taking over. I need to do the video on Warriors Orochi 4, which, you know, depending on how things go, that video might go up first. But, yeah, and that's... so I even though I think the Legendia one is slightly more likely just because there's a little more evidence for it at the moment, I think Vesperia is likely the one we're going to get, which is the reason why I'm showing gameplay footage of that and not Legendia, because I think that we are probably going to get something there, possibly, maybe, I don't know. Plus, you know, it's 2018, and the original game came out in 2008, so it's the 10th anniversary, and I feel like it would be a good time to maybe do that, because, you know, Vesperia is like the really popular one, too, because that's the one they always pick for, like, the spin-offs. That's the one that's been in, you know, Project Cross Zone 1 and 2, so... I actually think Vesperia is, like, the top-selling Tales game now. I think, like, it outsold, the Destiny remake, because a while the Destiny remake was like the top one, and like Destiny was like the most popular Tales game, and when the Destiny remake came out, like it became like the big daddy, I believe. But now we've got Vesperia, I believe, and I think like looking at like media and whatnot, you can kind of see that. Especially if you look at merchandise these days, because, you know, they've got, you know, Symphonia merch, Vesperia merch, and Zestiria merch, I believe, and Exilia. They've got, like, those, like, those, like, top 4 Tales games. Those are, like, the ones that have, like, the merch at the moment, which I think is sort of a testament to how popular they are. And I mean, like, actual, like, official English merch. And I know the European... Namco site has a Tales shop where you can get like little like cups and like phone cases and I think t-shirts and stuff. I need to get a Lloyd t-shirt, both the official one and that one that Abby from Abyssal Chronicles made, the one that Hideo Babo was seen wearing with the cup of coffee. It's all like, I support Lloyd Marish. That's an inside joke with me and my friends. No one's gonna get that. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand with the Tales situation at the moment. Again, I don't think it's dying, but it is seemingly kind of slow. And I think whatever next big game we're gonna get will sort of determine, and how that game is received will sort of determine what happens next. I would really hate to see this series die off. It's my fave. It's my fave. I remember thinking, like, you know, for some reason, like talking about Berseria and when they showed the gameplay and whatnot, like, you know, for some reason I'm thinking about like what happens if Tales dies. It's like, well, shit. Maybe I need to be all like, I can't wait for the new Tales games that are gonna come out, man. 2018 and 2019 are gonna be lit. There, I've unjinxed the situation because it clearly was all on me. No, but for me personally, you know, as I've already told you, I've been writing for Abyssal Chronicles. Try to write as much as I can on there. Both the Link and Ray's articles I did are pretty short because they were just about the closure, but I did write those. I hope you enjoy what I've been writing on there, and I hope you've enjoyed the content that we've been putting out there, because, you know, I know one of our other news writers on there has been doing reviews on, or she was doing reviews on the anime. Now she's doing a review on the Zestiria manga. She was doing the series across the anime reviews, and then she's doing the manga now. So, you know, I have a couple ideas for content on there as well. We'll just have to see kind of where things go. But other than that, as you guys probably know from my new blog, I've been hitting the collecting pretty hard. I've been buying a lot of games using my paychecks and whatnot, and any money I can save up to like add to my collection. At the moment, though, I've actually been working on my Tales collection because I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and try to complete it. I've actually technically got a version of every single Tales game. The last one I needed was Summoner's Lineage, and I'm like, you know what? Let's go the full mile and just get every version of every Tales game, because even that number was kind of small. So I've been working on that. Actually, today I got Tales Fantasia for the PS1. So I have that now. So I have every version of Fantasia. I've got the Super Famicom version, the recently acquired PS1 version, the GBA version, and then both PSP versions. A full voice edition and Fantasia Cross. I also got the Wii version of Tales of Graces, since I think at this point, Tales of Graces might be my third favorite, if not like my second favorite. It's my Tales list is kind of, I'd say my top three are probably Eternia, Abyss, and Graces. So I wanted to get Graces on the Wii anyway, to kind of see the differences, and plus have the Japanese version available if I wanted to play it, but also, you know, for my collection and whatnot. And it's so far the only imported Wii game I have. You know, I don't know if that's going to change, but I do have that. Hopefully it's not the version that had to get recalled due to glitching. If it is, it's not a big deal, because I've got the PS3 version in English, so I can play that. And then I also got Narikiri Dungeon 1 on the Game Boy Color, because that was another one that was sort of on like the other list, because since I had the remake version, and that was the one I actually got for like the actual checkoff list, quote unquote, I'm like, I should probably have the original too, even though I don't really like it that much. So I have that. And so at the moment, the only ones I need to get are Tales of Rebirth on PSP, which I'm actually going to order tonight off of PlayAsia. Tales of Innocence R on the Vita, which I'm a little hesitant to get because I think, you know, that would also be one that I'd love to see in English, and I can maybe see that being put on the Switch, but probably not. So I'm just going to go ahead and get that. And then the last one I don't technically need, but I do want it, is the premium box for the Japanese version of Tales of Eternia. Because since Eternia is my all-time favorite, I want to get the collector's edition of that, mainly so I can get the cool like little figurines and the clock and stuff. That's part of the reason why I get the collector's editions of the Tales series. Like, it is to support the series, but I also just want the nice things. I might do an unboxing on the Mizuho channel. Not that that's definitely a collector's piece that I think more people probably have. One of the more interesting pieces I got with the help of another Abyssal Chronicles friend was actually a boxed copy of Tales of Eternia Online. Yes, I actually have one of those now, because I was thinking, like, I want to try and get all of them, and I decided, just on a whim, I would look it up, and I found a boxed copy of like the install disc and whatnot on the Japanese Yahoo auction thing, and I'm thinking, like, okay, well, I'll need to do a proxy, and it was like the price of like a standard game, so it was like $60. I'm like, holy shit, I should jump on that, so I did. And so I asked in our little community on the Abyssal Chronicles community, and I mean community as in like the people who work for it, like not the forums. I asked around there, like, hey, what kind of good proxy services are there? And I got some help with that, with the proxy service, and I say proxy service, but it's more of like the friend in Japan kind of thing, if you know what I mean. And so I got it. So I have it. It's there. It came with the install disc, a special disc. I don't know what's on there. Some sort of like voucher for like a 30-day trial, which I'm pretty sure is expired, and some like little collectible cards of just the different characters. Because I'm pretty sure, even though it was an MMORPG, it did have a story to it, if I'm not mistaken. There's not really any sort of, I don't have any way to like back that up. I don't think there's any like real footage of like the gameplay. I think most people were just like, I mean, like, of the story. I think most people just like recorded just there's footage of the actual game, but like not of like the actual like story or whatever. Like there's not that much because the game was IP blocked anyway, so I only ever got as far as the title screen back when you could download it. I wish I still had that download, or at least a folder of the files, but now I have a physical copy. So, you know, in the event that someone's all like, hey, let's do a private server, I'll be like, okay, dog, here are the files, dog. So if you want to do that, you know, let me know. I actually still love the idea of a Tales MMO, and I know Hideo Baba kind of shut that down because he was all like, no, and he also shut down the possibilities of an Eternia remake, so he's all like, no, we don't want to do that. I'm like, oh, gee, thanks, Baba-sama. I'm not going to share my Baskin-Robbins Rainbow Sherbet with you, which I'm actually going to go buy because I haven't eaten dinner yet. So I'll probably do that, but yeah, like my collection, my Tales collection is almost complete. I just need those 3 games left. I've already found the Eternia collection, so at this point it's just a matter of like ordering it and waiting for it, and then I'll have them all, and then I'll work on some other collection. Obviously there are other Tales collectors who have a lot more than I do, especially if they get into like the merch. I would love to have more Tales merch. Like I want to get that Symphonia Skit Faces pillow so I can use it for my gaming pillow that I rest my head on while I game on that love seat that I mentioned earlier. But yeah, the actual collection itself, you know, I'm slowly getting close to completing my personal collection, getting all the games that I want. I'm not trying to have like a complete collection of everything, of all like one system. I'm trying to get like certain stuff. Dragon Ball I know would be hard because there's some games that like, well, there's that cassette game, like that would actually be really cool to have. Like if I ever find that, I might get just to say like, hey, I have the very first Dragon Ball game ever made, or at least the first home release game. There might have been some arcade games before that preceded it. I don't know yet, but I do have a pretty big Dragon Ball game collection as well. Like I said, I've got the Fighters video it's already been recorded. The footage has already been recorded. I just need to edit it and put it all together. I say edit, but all I'm really doing is just putting it together and trimming up a little bit. And of course now I have to edit this video, which is pretty long. You know, it's not going to be as long as it's longer. It's going to be longer than the announcement videos I need to do, but it's going to be shorter by, I'm guessing, 2 or 3 hours than the Tournament of Power review arc. Easily. Dragon Ball is probably my all-time favorite thing. Tales is like my close second. I've discovered that myself with Dragon Ball, I can enjoy it in any way, be it the anime, the games, the manga, the music, the movies. I even have been thinking about getting one of those Viz Kids Dragon Ball novels, because I want to see, like, can I enjoy Dragon Ball in a purely textual way? Because since I'm a writer, and that's what I went to school for, and that's what I've studied, and that's what I got my bachelor's degree in, and my field of interest and my field of expertise, can I enjoy it in that way, even if it's not the source material? I mean, obviously comics are literature, but like I'm talking about just purely a textual form. I've even been thinking about testing myself to see if I can write a scene of Dragon Ball Super and see how that goes. But with the Tales series, I found that, especially after watching Zesiri Lacrosse, you know, I did enjoy it, so don't think that this is a comment on it. I mean, I did dislike some stuff about it, but I did overall enjoy it. But I feel like the Tales series, I enjoy it best when it's in game form. I think that's when the series is at its best. So I feel like because I can truly only enjoy it in a game form, it kind of goes down the list of favorite things. Now, if you were to ask me what's my favorite video game series of all time, Tales, easily. Dragon Ball is only a maybe on there because, like, well, it's not really a video game franchise, which is the same reason why, you know, I'm not going to say that Tales is my favorite anime, because, like, the Tales series isn't an anime. Even though it has anime art, it's not an anime franchise. It's a video game franchise. So, you know, even though the Eternia anime is probably my second favorite anime of all time, maybe right under Dragon Ball. Of course, like Yu Yu Hakusho and Berserk and Tiger and Bunny are up there as well. That's a different subject entirely, but yeah, that's sort of what I think about this whole thing. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. I don't know if I'll post this anywhere besides YouTube. You'll probably see it on my Twitter, and I might post it on Tumblr as well if it's even there. I think that's probably where most of my views come from, outside of YouTube. I know my videos don't get a lot of views, but I just make them because I enjoy them. Though, admittedly, like I said, I haven't really been feeling motivated to. I'm going to try to use today, which is Saturday the 14th of April, to sort of record a bunch of different things, probably after we do the podcast. So, obviously, this is going to be going up afterwards, depending. I'll try to have it up as soon as I can. But, yeah, that's just what I think. We're getting close to the hour mark, so I guess I should probably rein it in since I'm done. I don't want to ramble, so I won't keep you guys. Let me know what you guys think, if you agree, disagree, or if you have any questions, or if you want to talk about Tales. You know where to find me, or if you just want to comment, or if you just want to tell me what you had for lunch today, that's fine too. I think I'm going to get Wendy's for dinner, so I'll go ahead and see you guys later. This is Flames Ryan, keep you Tasuke signing out. Here's hoping the Tales series comes back like the Phoenix, and see you guys later.